Joshua Smith here, and welcome to the GSD Mode podcast. Now get shit done and smash that subscribe button now. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast interview. And today, you guys, I'm so excited to have another rockstar, amazing guest. Really blessed to have our guest on with us today. I'm so excited to be able to pick her brain, learn from her. And I know that you guys are going to learn a lot. I'm going to learn a lot. I'm so excited for this. So to give you guys just some quick context or quick background about our guest today before we jump in. So our guest went from being a brand new to the real estate industry, like we all were at some point, right? But then quickly to being the president of the top expansion team with Keller Williams, or the top expansion team in the United States, which we'll get into that. But almost 30 plus locations, I believe now, throughout the country. And, which is really cool with that of she's able to see what's going on in different markets, what's working in different markets and so forth. We'll get deep into that. Has an extensive background in marketing and is, again, president of the #1 expansion team in the United States. So, and I believe these are 2020 numbers. I probably higher than this now, but at least that's so 2020, overseeing 241 agents on the team. 2020 to 2,317 closings at just over 641 million in gross volume sales. In addition to that, she's a coach. Also in production herself, a realtor herself, doing over 7 million a year in gross volume sales. Is an epic badass vlogger and blogger, Instagram influencer, and more. So really stoked and honored to have Erin McCormick, Torres on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, man. I was telling you before we hit the record button, I was like, I'm like getting prepped. I'm writing out your bio. I'm reading it out. And I'm like, dude, like, I need to just hand you over the GSD, I'm like, my whole thought is like, how do you get it all done? Right. Which we'll unpack all that. And, but I'm so excited. I mean, you're just such a wealth of knowledge and experience and expertise. And, I'm just excited to be able to learn from you and honor that you made the time for this today, because I know how busy you are. But before we really jump into what you guys are doing today and what you guys are doing to navigate through this insane, crazy market that we're all in, I'm always intrigued in our guest's journey that led him here in the first place. I mean, you were in marketing prior to this, like why real estate? How did this start in the first place? And then when you first got into the real estate, into this industry, from what I can see, it looks like you started off as, marketing and lead gen. And I'm really curious of what then transpired to, go out there and now run this, #1 expansion team on the planet.
Yeah, man, lots to unpack there. Lots of good stuff. So it's interesting. So I live in Vermont. It's a small community. And I had always worked in marketing and lead gen for a number of different companies in different industries, higher education, K-12 education technology. I was working in health and fitness and wellness. And marketing was always the tie between those things. I was also always super bored and felt like I was stagnant at companies where I was, working for startups. In 3 years, we'd be hitting all of our goals. And I'd be like, all right, there's nowhere for me to go. I can't grow into another role. So I have to start doing freelance work or something to fill up my time and exercise my brain and challenge myself, because I'm not getting that, between 8 to 5. So I started doing a lot of freelance work, a lot of marketing consulting, trying to meet as many people as possible. I was bartending on the side. I always like having my hands on a lot of different things. I'm not good when I'm sitting idle. So it's funny, I was doing some consulting work for a fence company. And I sat down with him one day for lunch and he said, man, you have to meet my coach. This guy, Adam Hergenrother. I know you've had him on the podcast before too. And I said, that name sounds familiar. Did a little digging, said, oh, he's the #1 real estate agent in Vermont. This guy seems interesting, right? He has great marketing. The next day on Craigslist, and granted, this was 5 years ago when people still use Craigslist to find jobs, I saw that he was looking for a director of marketing. I said, if this is not a sign from the universe that I just had this conversation with this guy yesterday, and now I'm seeing that he has an opening for the exact job role that I'm in, this is a sign that I need to take a step and meet this guy. So, we courted for 4 months. We ended up, coming to an agreement. I came on board. And I didn't know anything about real estate. And I still look back on that, and Adam and I chuckle because he took a chance on me. Again, I work hard. I knew that I could apply marketing, which is, psychology, to any business and any industry, but I wasn't proven at all. And then really quickly, it's funny, Adam owns a bunch of different companies. And I said to him within the first month, I want to be the director of marketing and lead gen for all of your companies. So that first month, I don't think that I've ever worked harder. I was building out websites and lead funnels and all these different things, trying to show him that, hey, I can do this. So within a month, I was given the opportunity, to run kind of the marketing for all of his businesses. And then since then, it's just been every year and a half or so, hey, you're ready for that next opportunity. And initially when I talked to Adam, I said to him, I need a company where I can continually grow and never be stagnant. I do not sit well in mediocrity. I do not sit well in a business where I feel like I can't grow. And he promised me at that point that he's always going to be making his world big enough where any of us in it can achieve their goals within his world. So, and that's proven so true in the past 5 years, 4.5 or so, when, we've been continually building out ancillary companies, creating new divisions. I went from director of marketing and lead gen to COO, where I was overseeing everything from financials and listing, transactions and everything essentially, to now it's my role as president is largely focused on growth. How do we grow not only in agent count, how do we grow with the teams who we bring on board? How do we grow in wealth building opportunities for all of our different partners around the country? I wake up every morning with a weight on my shoulders of, hey, how do I support all of these agents who are our partners across the country, not only in really creating the biggest businesses for themselves, but also living the biggest lives for themselves as well, which is really what our culture is all about. Personal growth through business success is what we live and breathe every day. So that's kind of my story of where I was, how I got into real estate. It was one of those things I had always had an interest in real estate. I was always looking at homes, and I bought my first house when I was 22. So I always kind of had that inkling. I studied architecture in college. It was just something that was in the back of my head. And if you had ever asked me 5 years ago, man, would I be sitting here right now? No way, right? I was a marketer. Yeah. So I do believe that everyone's a marketer though. So
100%. When it's so amazing. This is why life is just so much fun it's like I heard a saying one time, and I'm sure everybody's heard this saying, but it's like, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? Where it's kind of one of those things of like, as I reflect back, like everything that like is really transpired to at least the big things in the business world, like none of it was planned. Like it just happened. And yeah, it happened through, hard work and so forth, but it's just how this unfolds. And that's what's so cool, because we don't know what the next 5 years is going to be, right? So a question though, have you, you're so driven and, just go and such amazing energy. And is this, have you always been this way, right? Is this just something like you were just born that person that just has to get shit done all the time and keep busy? Or, is it just something that was kind of learned over time?
Yeah, it's pretty much been, I've just always been someone who gets shit done. And it's funny because before I knew that you had this whole get shit done brand, I was like, man, I want to write a book about that, right? Because as, I started leading teams when I was 24. And back then I would say, all right, our mission today is to GSD. And it's funny because even people who I worked with back then and still now, they'll like find a little get shit done sticker and they'll send it to me, or it just resonates with them because that's our motto. And it's really my leadership mantra, if you will, where I'm the type of leader, I'm still going to roll up my sleeves. I'm still going to get in the garden and dig with everyone else, whatever we need to do. I'm not above anyone else. And I think that that's just a part of our leadership team that's so authentic and genuine, is that we all like to get things done every single day. And a lot of that comes down to extreme time management. And in my whole life, I've been the type of person where if I'm not productive and busy, I'll get myself into trouble. Right? Where I'm not the type of person who can just sit around all day and watch TV. I'm not the type of person who can just stand by. It's like when I have downtime, I'm going to renovate my house, or I'm going to, research X, Y, or Z, whatever it might be to learn something. I do not do well with idle time. I never have. I don't think I ever will. So for me, it's really been, I have a lot of different income streams. They all work together super well. And it's been, how can I kind of navigate how these different things support one another? I think the key is truly having an interest in all of them and truly loving everything that you do. Because if you're not waking up every day pumped to take on the day and realizing that, man, I'm going to have a lot of challenges, I'm going to have a lot of struggles today, and I love that. A lot of us who I think have the GSD mentality, thrive in the chaos. We like to sit in the mess and wade through the mess, and then know that there are going to be rewards on the other side of that.
Yeah, it's how I always get. I mean, I always get asked, but occasionally, like, oh, do you play video games? Or are you into card games or board games? I'm like, no, I can't stand any of it. And they're like, well, like, you don't enjoy games? I'm like, dude, I play the ultimate game every day. You know, right? Like this puzzle, you know, chess game, like whatever you want to call it, business. It's the ultimate game, man. And
100%.
You know, a lot don't get that and understand that because they're you know, not business owners and so forth. But you know, those that are and get that, you know, they know where we're coming from. So and man, I have so many follow-up questions. I already have like 2 pages of notes. You already said a follow-up. So I mean, I really want to get into you know, what you guys are doing to create success in this crazy market. So many agents are struggling and so forth. But before we get into that, I'm really curious about, you know, from your marketing background and so forth. You know, it's so easy, and this is a common thing in every industry, for people to get tunnel vision.
Yes.
To think my industry is different. You know, what worked over here doesn't work here, you know, and so forth. And it can be like the Achilles heel to so many entrepreneurs because it robs them of that growth potential of, you know, like being able to learn from, I don't know, maybe it's the you know, a chiropractor that owns, you know, 300 different offices throughout the country. But we're like, oh, you know, so with that being said, with you doing marketing in so many different industries, you know, pre-joining the team and with Adam, and then even with Adam, with all his different companies and all the different things that you guys are doing, you know, I mean, what is, and this is probably going to be maybe it's a hard question, maybe it isn't, but like, what is like the really key, you know, if there's a few things or whatever of, you know, people becoming great marketers? Because the reality is, it doesn't matter how good of realtors that anybody is, or, you know, broker owners or whatever, like if you don't become a great marketer, if you don't have a new steady flow of clients coming in, it doesn't matter how good you are at doing the thing, you're going to go broke.
Yes. So there's a lot there that I can say. The first one is having the mindset that you are a marketer. There are so many people that I've talked to over the years who have said to me, I'm not a marketer. And I said, well, do you pick up the phone? You know, how do you respond in an email? How do you portray yourself on social media? That's all marketing, right? So it's having the mindset that everything that you do is marketing. How you talk to people at the post office is marketing, right? Everything is marketing when you're branding yourself. And I truly believe that the best agents, the best even, you know, business owners are ones who are genuine and authentic. They're 100% themselves because they're going to attract like-minded people who want to work with them because of who they are. So I would say the mindset that you are a marketer and that you can market yourself. A lot of people too don't have the confidence necessarily to put themselves out there in a marketing capacity, which I think is fundamental in real estate. I would also say, you know, trying different things in marketing, because you're not going to like everything. Maybe you're not a strong writer, but you are a great graphic designer, right? Or maybe you like creating websites or you like email campaigns. Try different things. Maybe you like going on video. I think for a lot of agents and a lot of people in general, they just don't try enough things to actually find what they enjoy. That's, you know, a big part of it. And a big part of lead generation in general is do more of what you enjoy. And it might take you some time to figure out what that is. But I talk to our agents all the time to say, okay, pick your 3 lead generation sources that you actually want to do, because then you're going to show up and do them. If you told me to go door knock, if you told me to cold call, I'm probably not going to do that. But if you told me to amplify my Instagram and, you know, touch base with more agents for referrals or call my SOI, by all means, I'm going to do that. Right? So that's a big thing. And then I think also with marketing, the fundamental thing is realizing that we are always marketing, whatever industry you're in, to people. So it's kind of putting yourselves in the shoes of that person to say, what would resonate with me? What would get my attention? And I think oftentimes we forget about that there's a person just like us on the other end of our ClickFunnels or the other side of our email. When if I just put myself in their shoes for a day and think, what's going to resonate with them? What's going to make an impact? What's going to make them actually respond to me or pick up the phone or take action or, you know, click on a call to action, whatever it might be. It's knowing who that demographic is and how to talk to them. And a lot of that, again, is just the mindset of, okay, if I were this consumer, what would I want to hear? How quickly would I want to hear it? When would I want to hear it? You know, what's going to grab my attention? And then starting there. So it's almost starting with the end user in mind. And then I also think kind of the last thing to tie on to that is paying attention to user behavior. So we have a lot of data. I talk to our agents about this day in and day out in our CRM. We have so much user behavior. If we're not actually reading between the lines to pick up on when somebody is actually ready for that phone call and ready to actually talk to us about their real estate needs, then we're just missing the boat, right? We have so much data that's going to guide our activities. So that's a big component of it too. That's what marketing enables us. But it's the front end of marketing and then also the back end of marketing to really be paying attention to the results and what the results can teach us.
So, a lot of agents, and maybe this is true. I've only ever really been in real estate, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't have the experience with all these other industries like you do. So I'm guessing it's probably the same. But a lot of real estate agents, when they hear marketing, they might think of, like just, okay, your direct mail pieces, right? Like, something they're stroking a check for, a newspaper ad and so forth. And, but what you're saying there, it's so much deeper than that. Like you said, the conversations, the emails. And so it just all comes down to because then you get some people that, get in this debate of marketing versus sales and whatever it may be. Like how would you define for a realtor that is trying to get their head around, like, what is marketing?
Yes.
Like what would you want them to like know and understand and believe and understand the importance of, like, this is what marketing is? Yeah.
So I think marketing is definitely the first part of sales. So they are interconnected. And I think oftentimes we think, oh, we're a salesperson, we're not a marketer, but they are tied together and they are fundamental to one another. So I don't think that you can be successful in sales if you don't have marketing. And of course you can't be successful in marketing if you don't actually have some sales coming from what you're producing. So when I describe marketing, marketing is everything, right? Marketing is how quickly you respond. Marketing is your client experience. Marketing is your community engagement events, your community drives. Of course, it's lead generation and getting people into your database. It's audience acquisition. It's branding yourself. It's social media. It's email marketing. It's your website. It's all of that encompassing. But again, you don't have to do all of it. I think that that's where a lot of agents fall down too, is they have that dilution of focus. This comes into actual lead sources too, where it says, I'm going to be the expert in everything. Well, no. If you want to go the route of agent referrals, do that really well and market to agents really well. If you want to be, on social media because you really enjoy getting yourself out there and creating organic content that's going to resonate with people, do more of that. So there are so many different facets of marketing. It's really picking those things that, again, bring you joy and energize you and that you want to accomplish. And I would say that, again, they're tied together when it comes to marketing and sales.
Yeah, it's kind of like lead gen and lead follow-up get treated as two separate things, but they can't not coexist. Or systems and processes. It's like, dude, it's all intertwined.
Same thing,
right? Working out and dieting, it's I love it. So then, all right, so one thing that just never seems to get talked about in the real estate industry. And it took me a long time to really understand the power of this. And it took me also working with coaches and trainers and getting outside of the real estate industry with experts. But okay, if I go start a new business today and I'm hiring a consultant to help me with this business, the first thing before we do anything, even coming up with product, it is getting clear on your ideal client. Right? I mean, you talked about this of really getting clear on the ideal client, knowing the demographics, and then that allows you to unpack the psychographics and, creates the messaging and then, where they congregate, all of that. But if an agent right now is like, well, I don't even know what that means to find my ideal client. Like how would you, because sometimes people, when they're brand new to this industry, whatever, they may have a difficult time with that. What would you, if I'm a brand new agent and I've never heard of the term ideal client before, like what would you coach and tell me to do to get clarity on that ideal client?
I would ask you to think, who do you want to work with? A lot of it can start there too. A lot of it can also start with who is kind of your peer. Where if I get a lot of my clients from Instagram. If I look at my Instagram demographic, they are me in a lot of ways, right? They're my same age bracket, rough, give or take 5 years or so. They tend to be well employed. They tend to enjoy the things that I enjoy. So for me, that ideal client is someone who you're not necessarily going to have to nurture a ton, because you're going to have things in common already that are going to bond you together. So it's interesting, here in Vermont, craft beer is like the biggest thing. It's surpassed skiing and maple syrup and all these different things. And I've kind of embedded myself in the craft beer community because it's something that we have in common. And I get a ton of people who want to work with me because I know craft beer. And it sounds ridiculous, and it is kind of ridiculous. But again, it's that commonality that bonds you with someone where they're like, oh, immediately we have something in common. So for that new agent who's just starting, trying to find that ideal client, I would again go back to, what do you like? What do you enjoy? How can you find people who have common interests, who might naturally want to work with you because of your expertise and whatever it might be? I'm coaching someone right now out in California who's a big biker. And we're talking about how can he attract more clients who are into road biking, because he has an expertise in that. And he enjoys spending time in that community. So I would say start there. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it's finding common ground with people. And then, I also think about, I have some agents on our teams who really like working more in elderly, with elderly folks who are, downsizing or moving into assisted living or what it might be. They like sitting down with them, having those longer conversations. It's a lot about who you naturally connect with in life, I think, and where you enjoy spending your time, because you're going to spend a lot of time with your ideal client, ideally, if you're marketing to them correctly.
Yeah, because I mean, it's one of those things of, because again, it's just that limiting beliefs that some have, that like, especially with newer agents, because they haven't had enough transactions yet to like realize, okay, like if I could have every client, this perfect client cloned, right? Every client was this client, but back to your point of like, look, dude, like, even like if we did go back to junior high, high school, and then like we were all, had our, what do you want to call it, clique or whatever, but you had your group, right? And that carries over through all aspects of life. Like, who are your people? And just certain people for whatever reason that we connect with best, that we, and it's going to be different for each of us, and like who you enjoy spending that time with, and so forth. And so somebody starts unpacking that and they start writing that stuff down and getting clarity on that. Then from there, when it comes to kind of connecting the dots to get the demographics, right? What then are you looking for? And maybe we'll combine, just in case they kind of infuse, with the way that you teach this, of, because you got, demographics and psychographics, right? So you got, the demographics, age, income, they married, kids, right? That sort of thing. And then, the psychographics is really the conversation taking place in their mind, right? The fears, the pain points, the dreams, the, things that are important to them, the, whatever. So like, how do you, because the more clear that you can be on that, then you can really get that marketing message, right? Yeah. Like, how do you then start dissecting that?
I think you have to be paying attention to kind of what your top level data is first, like the source. Where am I getting this for, the source? And then drilling down into, okay, what type of person is this? Where are they living right now? What kind of family do they have? Really diving into all of those nitty gritties to try to find the trends, the patterns, and be able to kind of isolate, what are the commonalities between all of these different people. And I also think really paying attention to like, what are the differences too between my different clients? How does it feel to work with a first-time home buyer? What am I seeing in patterns there? What am I seeing with more seasoned buyers? It all comes down for, I think, looking for the patterns and looking for the trends and looking for the things that do, tie people together and tie me to, to different clients. So I would say it's a lot of, start with a high level and keep drilling down with the people who you're working with, and also track. Most agents just don't track their data, so they have no sense for even who that demographic is. Spend time looking at your website traffic. Spend time in your database. We're very fortunate that our database will give us kind of qualifying questions about different leads. What's your buy time? Are you pre-approved? Are you buying with cash? Things like that. So we have those insights immediately with them. So I would say it's really about, where can you find that data? What data do you want to be tracking? And then what's going to actually resonate with them? If I'm going after an older demographic right now, I'm probably going to go towards Facebook. If I want to, find someone in their mid-20s to mid-30s, I'm probably going to go to Instagram. It's paying attention to those trends. And we'll not even talk about TikTok because I haven't even explored that yet. But it's kind of like, paying attention to who's there, who's being successful, and what that demographic actually looks like. So I think it's also just a lot of testing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. And to your point, it's important to find out where they congregate, right? Like you got to make sure the message gets in the right eyeballs. And I don't know if you've ever read or followed Perry Marshall, but he's got a marketing book called the 80-20 rule. And, it's kind of an extreme example, but he in there, he's like, look, he's talking about the congregation, making sure you congregate where you're showing up where they congregate. He's like, look, my job was to sell Bibles. Like, I'm not going to go to a strip club trying to sell Bibles. Like, I'm going to find the church that uses these Bibles. I'm going to try to get in with the person that identify who the purchaser is of those Bibles, right? Like, you show up where they're at. And, I see so many that are hitting Instagram hard because they enjoy it.
Yes.
Right. Versus where where their clients are at. So then from there, when you talk about, being authentic and so forth, what is that? Because we're also a professional, like it's a professional industry, right? And some people take this to the far extreme, right? And some people might look at me now today and be like, "Yeah, Josh, like you're guilty of that," But it was like, look, when I always dressed the part, like when I was in production, I wore a suit every day for 8 years, and not that maybe that was necessary. I did it for specific reasons and to stand out and so forth. But, there's kind of can be that fine line of, being authentic, but also not being, silly and being taken as, turning people off and not attracting.
Yeah. So the biggest thing I say is always lead with your expertise and what you know. So it's a little bit different because I live in Vermont. Vermont is super casual, but I'm going to show up to listing appointments like I show up on my blog or like I show up on Instagram. I'm probably going to be wearing a fleece like this. In the summer, I might wear flip-flops. If I showed up in a suit here, there would be a problem. And no one would want to work with me. So some of it is also knowing your clientele and also matching who they are and what they wear and having a sense for who they are. If there's a disconnect, right? If I'm working with a young first-time home buyer and I show up super buttoned up, I might not be as approachable. Now, I do think that you have a point. In some markets, especially, we have teams, 33 across the country. In some markets, you definitely do have to dress the part. But I would say for anyone in any market, no matter what you look like, what you wear, your expertise and the communication of that expertise is what's going to get people to want to work with you. So I spend a lot of time with our people about how do we educate? How do we use data, market data even, to showcase, hey, we know what's going on in the market. I also like to use anecdotes a lot when I'm talking to clients. So they know, hey, I've been through this. This is what happened over here with this client, and here's how we worked through it. I think showcasing that you are going to work hard for them, that you're a problem solver, that you've been through it before, that you care deeply about them, that you care about the client experience. In my opinion, that matters more than what I wear or how I look. But again, I think it's about where you are and knowing that demographic, because again, if I showed up all buttoned up, there would probably be a disconnect for some people who are like, this person might be a little bit too stuffy for me, where they want to be able to feel free to call me or text me at all hours, whether or not that's a good thing, right? But they want to know that, hey, I am accessible, that I am, willing to work hard on their behalf.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Any make sure that you don't make these mistakes. Like when you're trying to get out there and build your, becoming an your own influencer in our own right, in our own markets and so forth, right. I don't know, through COVID-19, it became like a doctor and a health expert. And then, and then through the presidential crap, like everybody, so a lot of people that I never even heard them talk about politics. And now all of a sudden, all I'm hearing talk is about is there kind of anything of be careful not to cross this line?
Yeah, we tell our people to steer clear of politics, because at any point, no matter who you are, 50% of the population isn't necessarily going to agree with you. So we tend to try to remain a little bit more neutral. We tend to also admit when we have shortcomings or we don't know something, right? If a client or someone asks me something and I don't know it, I'm never going to pretend that I do, because I'm just going to make myself look silly when the actual, answer comes to be. So we tend to be very direct. We tend to talk to our agents about being genuine and, again, saying if you don't know something. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that agents who are newer can make, is assuming that they know everything when they haven't been through it. And, a lot of it is, hey, let me just lean on the resources that I do have, right? I think a lot of it too is making sure that, well, in my perspective, using public platforms and the platforms that you do have for good, just because I think the the conversation and the story can turn negative very quickly. And I know that a lot of people want to work with people who are positive, who are encouraging, not people who are consistently complaining or negative about things. So we really aim, especially when we talk to agents, about come from a place of positivity, of, and that also is rooted in our culture, is that we believe that there's always a way. We're never going to give up. We'll always get it done. So I think that kind of plays to the positivity and the positive mindset that I think you need in this industry and need to convey to people as well.
Yeah, love it. So then, speaking of marketing, if is those that are watching, listening to this, or hearing this, and hopefully everybody's understanding the power of marketing, right? Like, you guys are number one for a reason. And like, this stuff works. And at the end of the day, the best marketer wins, right? Like, yep. Steve Jobs gets called a lot of things, but at the end of the day, he was the greatest marketer, probably, like, of his time, of his era, and may even go down in history as one of the greatest marketers of all time, right? Yep. But if they're like, all right, like, I understand the importance of this. Yes. I'm going to be fully committed to it. Because if you talk to, any massively successful entrepreneur that's built an amazing company, you ask them, like, every time I've asked, and anybody I've had the opportunity to ask this question to, what are the top one or two traits that like we must master to go out there and create that level of success? These specific to the business, and they're always, marketing and leadership. Right. Yep. So there's those two things like that will have the biggest impact on anything else that you do. They'll trump everything else. Like, what are, because again, you go Google marketing, you go on Amazon. There's a bazillion books out there, and they're not all created equal. Mm-hmm. Like, who would you recommend for anybody that's watching, listening, that's wanting to really level up in this journey and their knowledge base and so forth? Like what would you recommend, like, them to start? Any resources, and so forth, for them to get a deeper level of understanding with this stuff?
Yeah, I would probably start with Gary Vaynerchuk's books, right? He has so many books on the client experience and marketing, and really understanding marketing at its core, and how he took his wine business from point A to point B. Also, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. I was teaching a webinar earlier today on branding, and man, if you can follow the story of Nike, it's amazing of where they were and where they went. And a lot of that was tied to their marketing and their branding and quality product. When it comes to real estate, if you don't enjoy marketing and it's not your thing, and you have the means to hire someone and leverage that out, that's one of the best investments that you can make. Because I do think that you need to live in marketing, you need to understand it. And marketing can mean different things for different people too. So a lot of what we tell our agents to be rooted in is that lead conversion. It's the follow-up. It's the touching base. It's the picking up the phone. A lot of that is what's actually going to, I think, create results in this business, coupled with education. You have to have training. You have to be educated. You have to know how to objection handle. Those are the things I think that are more on the sales side of marketing, if you will. But once you have, marketing going, whether it's through your website, it's through lead sources, social media, whatever it is, you need to actually convert the leads, or you're never going to have any clients. So a lot of our focus is more on the conversion component of things. We do a lot of the marketing for our agents, so they don't have to do a lot of that, for themselves, but we teach them how to. Yeah. Because again, we don't want there to be a disconnect when somebody talks to them on the phone and then they meet them in person. We want that to be a streamlined experience. So when they respond to our marketing, they're getting the same level of service, same level of, branding and marketing in person as well. Yep. Love it. So then, I'm kind of curious with, because your expertise, but then, obviously you have a huge passion for marketing, mm-hmm. But as you've, stepped into, this different role from, marketing now to leading this massive company. And I'm sure you've had to, delegate out those tasks and can't take those on. How has that transition been successful? Right? Because again, with your expertise and your love and passion for it, I know it's probably, hard to, not just let go of that, but, be able to trust in others to do it and deliver and so forth. What have you done to, I guess, make that a success? Like how have you been able to kind of part from that? Yeah. So a big part of it really started because I was the person who was developing our brand aesthetic. I developed our voice. I really did develop the brand when it came to marketing. So passing that off, I actually hired someone in marketing very quickly, probably like 6 months in, to handle more of the nitty-gritty design, campaign building and that sort of thing. And then I have given away and gotten back that marketing role, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, where it's hard to hire somebody who in marketing is kind of a generalist who can do everything, right? And that's kind of the person that we need in real estate, is someone who can write, who can blog, who can create great campaigns, can build out websites for builder projects. We kind of need that person. So a lot of it for me was really, how can I find someone who can tell stories? That was the big thing for me, is stories are always going to resonate. Stories work on any platform. So I really went towards, how do I find a storyteller, right? How do I find that person who's going to be able to capture our culture and put it in words? How are they going to be able to, talk about how we're changing lives and the different initiatives that we've done and showcase that on a website or on video or on social media? So for me, it really went away from, yes, you need to know, you have to, if you're hiring a marketing person, they have to know Google AdWords and they have to know, website building or whatever else, but fundamentally they need to be a storyteller.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So then, kind of transitioning, I mean, I guess it's still in the same topic, but, I want to hit on your blog. It's one of these things where for a lot of years, when I have this conversation with agents about blogs, it's like that, oh, it's an old school, thing that's dead, doesn't work anymore. SEO is dead. You can't compete with, like in our niche, like with the Zillows of the world. Like there's just this like misconception of that was, I don't know, 2000, not today, right? But yep. I just started for the first time ever. I'm blogging like crazy now. I mean, I just hired an agency, paying $100,000 a year to help walk me through this and create all of this. And they're blogging right? Because and I don't know if maybe it did have an era where it wasn't effective, but what I know right now, and maybe it's always just been this way of, I don't know if there's much else more effective, and it is a longer term play, right? Yeah. But it comes back to, you got to be digging your well before you're thirsty, right? Yep. And now that I know what I know, and I shouldn't say what I know, it's what I've witnessed of the success that those that have been consistent with their blogging and, invested that time to do it and do it right. Man, they are crushing it on stages that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And people coming to them, they're raving fans. It's so powerful. So, and I know that you've got, you're an expert blogger, have a lot of success with this. So, can you just speak to us of like what the power is, why an agent might want it and what it can do for them and so forth.
Yeah. So I actually started my blog. It's called Travel Like a Local Vermont. Before I got into real estate, it was one of those times in my life where I was like, man, I'm kind of bored. I'm feeling complacent. I should start a blog. I like traveling. I like showcasing hidden gems and little nooks and crannies around the state. So I started the blog. Pretty soon after, I started getting like tons of organic traffic, where I would look at my stats and be like, oh my gosh, I had 15,000 people on my blog today. Like, what am I doing? Right. And a lot of it came back to, I worked for eatingwell.com back in the day. It's a, food recipe website. And we would average like 2 million people every month on the website. And I was in charge of SEO. So I spent a lot of my kind of early 20s and one of my first jobs out of college just learning the ins and outs of SEO. But the thing is, it sounds scary for people in SEO, search engine optimization. It sounds scary, but again, it's putting yourself in the end user's, shoes to say, okay, if you're interested in this, what are you going to search? Right? Like best restaurants in Vermont, best hikes in Vermont, outdoor activities in Vermont that are kids friendly, things like that you are naturally going to search for. That's what you need to actually write on. So I did a little bit of research, and then it was largely me just generating content and me playing around with, H1 tags and H2 tags and metadata and all that good stuff. And then the blog kind of turned into Instagram, right? And I have been developing that organic following for about 5 years. About 85% of my business, my personal real estate business, comes from Instagram. And it's people just saying, hey, I want to work with you because you're that local expert. And the content is largely on the blog and Instagram is largely just local recommendations. Hey, check out this cool little place. I've even added some advertising, right? So I have advertising, I have Amazon affiliate links. I will do some custom itineraries for people. That's just a system and a tool that I've been able to build out. But thinking about how can I monetize that blog in a way where it's going to produce results for kind of ancillary businesses that I've created for myself. So I get about 100,000 people, to my blog in a given year. I don't do a ton of blogging on it right now. I actually need to kind of rekindle that. It's funny. I think I started it probably 6 years ago now. And at that point, blogging was, I feel like, bigger than it was the past few years. But I know a lot of quote unquote influencers, man, that are just crushing it on their blogs. I think, if you have an interest in writing, if you have an interest for being that local expert, if you have something to share, if you have a voice that you want to be heard, by all means, just start, right? And be paying attention to what people are searching for and you'll learn the nuances of like plugins and, again, like metadata and stuff over time. Don't worry about that. I would say just start writing and start sharing it and have people, naturally coming back to it to read what you have to offer in whatever industry that is or whatever your passion might be.
Yep. Well, and what's so amazing about the time that we live in is, all right, so like I am not, my grammar's terrible. I'm a terrible writer, right? And I've never blogged before, whatever. But, I'm so like, I'll come up with the topic, right? Or, I'll do my, 1,800 words or whatever, right? But then like you can go onto Fiverr and for, $25 have, somebody that is versed in blogging, copywriting to, clean it up and make it like, we don't need to be the expert. Like as long as we have the framework, we can have it cleaned up for next to nothing anymore today.
Yes. And that leverage is hugely important too. If you don't know where to start, a lot of people ask me that. It's like, man, how do I even start a blog? Outsource that, leverage that, right? You're the expert. You need to be generating the content, but all the rest of it, you can definitely outsource and hire that.
Yeah. So then, yeah, because your blog is specific to the area, which any agent could be doing that with their area. Cause you got life inside the home, but then you got this whole life outside of the home and your lifestyle and all of that stuff.
A big part of it.
But what would be for somebody that's kind of having that initial writer's block of not just writer's block, but like of thinking of, okay, what path should I take my blog? Like, of those that you see in real estate that are doing a good job with this or your agents, like what are kind of some of the, I don't know if there's themes to the content that they're creating around or things that seem to be working.
I would start with what questions do you get asked on a regular basis, right? That's what's kind of generated a lot of my content is, man, what are people asking me? What am I hearing all the time? What do I want to stop repeating where I can just send someone a link and say, hey, read this. A lot of it comes down to my goal of scalability, right? Where it's kind of like, I don't want to have to repeat myself 100 times on X, Y, or Z. So I would start with, what do you know? Also, what questions are you being asked? And what I typically do is every quarter I'll kind of sit down and I'll brainstorm topics and then boom, then I just put them in a calendar and you execute against it. Yeah. So I think it's what do you know? Again, what are you being asked? And then what can you easily write on? A lot of these topics that I see, agents writing on, whether it's about short sales or we're working with FSBOs, whatever it is, whatever your topic is, it so well that you can literally just sit down and write. I know a lot of people too who struggle with the actual writing of blogs will do talk to text. And that works super well for them too. And then boom, have them format it. I am definitely a writer. I am not a talker. And it's cool for me because I can express myself so differently with a written word than I can articulate myself, in person live. So that's kind of an area where I naturally gravitated towards because I was better there. And I think that's a theme too, is in marketing or whatever else, go where you're good, right? Go where you naturally are going to enjoy it. And then also where you have some kind of success. Because otherwise you're not going to do it.
Yep. 100%. And then the cool thing I love, whether it's blogging, vlogging, whatever, whether it's YouTube or physical blog or whatever of, it's like also like, I know so many that this became their reason to get educated on something that they always wanted to get more educated on. Yep. So if I'm a brand new agent, okay, this is my education journey to learn about the area and becoming an expert about the area. So I'm just now blogging on the things as I'm learning or, because you don't always have to be the expert. Like you can also be the reporter, if you will, right? And there's just so many different ways to take it. It's amazing stuff. So, all right. So then, the question that and I'm sure you get blown up with this every single day as well, but agents right now, I need to get more listings. I want to get more listings. I can't find my buyers' properties. I mean, it's crazy right now. I mean, it's been doing this since 2005, and even that the boom before the crash, and maybe I just have amnesia, but I don't remember it being this crazy.
No. And I mean, I work with a lot of different people on our team who many of them have been in the industry for, 25, 30 years. And I had a bunch of coaching calls today with them and they said, man, I've never seen it like this. Now, I think it's important to say the same number of homes are selling, right? It's just, we have a buyer influx that's creating this overwhelming sense of, oh my gosh, there's an inventory. So I think we almost have more of a buyer problem than we do an inventory problem, right? Because I don't know if we've ever seen this kind of unprecedented number of people wanting to buy a house. And correct me if I'm wrong, you've been in the industry longer than I have. But so for us, it's a lot about, you're going to have to work differently. Your training is going to have to be on point. You're going to have to go hunting. So if our agents aren't natural prospectors, well, you know what? You're going to have to do that right now. So we get extremely prescriptive with our agents. We talk to them about the 15-3-1, where every day, 15 minutes of script practice, 3 hours of lead generation and follow up, and then one appointment. That's your goal. Just that one appointment every day. Whether that's, a FSBO preview that you want to go and see, whether it's with a buyer, whatever it may be. Every day, be focused on that 15-3-1. We also will challenge our agents to what we call kind of hell week or 1,000 dials, right? Where we challenge them to make 1,000 dials in a given week. And that could be, circle dialing around a just sold, an open house, whatever it might be. It could be their sphere. It could be anyone, right? We don't care who they call. It's more about just making those connections, getting on the phone, being confident with your scripts so that when you do get a live one, right, who actually has some kind of potential for you as a listing or a buyer, you're ready to convert them. You have that market data to say, you know what, homes in Vermont are up 26% year over year. If you've thought about selling in the next, 24 months, you need to do it now. And here's why. Right? You have to have those scripts so cemented in you that naturally you're going to be able to tell that story to people and compel them to sell in this market. Yeah. I think it's also, of course, on the buy side, you have to get creative. And I know in a lot of the real estate Facebook groups, and there's a lot of dialogue right now about what's our fiduciary responsibility with people paying over appraised value and, not doing inspections. And is that going to come back and bite us? And I think we as real estate agents need to remember that there are different motivations for people needing or wanting to buy a house. That's not our decision to make, but we do have to educate them. So it goes back to, we as agents need to provide that education, but in order to do that, we have to understand all the nuances and what all the implications of this mean. So we spend a lot of time with our agents right now in making sure that they know how to make offers the absolute strongest, that they know how to have more conversations, they actually spending more time on task. It's funny, we challenged one of our teams last week to do the 1,000 dials. And one agent followed up and said, man, I can't get to 200 dials. It's taking more than 3 hours. And I said, well, work longer than 3 hours. Yeah. Right? Like, this is a business. You might have to work longer days right now. You might have to, spend more time in the data to try to find, off-market properties that are going to convert into listings for your people. I think that the people who actually survive this when it comes to real estate and, just agents are going to be on the other side thinking, man, I have it good right now. I can close some deals because I've developed those habits. I have the structure. I'm treating my business like a business. And man, I'm going to go close some deals because they have all of that. And man, when inventory opens up a little bit, they're just going to be rocking. I mean, those are the agents who are going to be doing 60, 70, units a year, no problem. Yep.
Love it. Yeah. And it's every disruption that I've been through disruptions always come up. Right. They might be disguised in different clothing, right. But they happen. And I've yet to experience one where I haven't had to double down, right. And when I say double down, it's like double down just to get the same result. And then if I want to not just, maintain, if I want to grow, well, then it might be tripling. And by that, I don't necessarily mean working 3 times the hours, right? But, being more focused than ever, being more strict on what to say yes to, what to say no to, making sure there's no time elimination, working extremely hard, but also working extremely hard at working smart too, at the same time. And it all passes. Like when the market crashed and, Phoenix, Arizona, we were in the mecca of it out here. It was like 90% of all property sales, during that gap were like, REO or short sales, right? Went from, a $300,000 house is now worth, 75,000. And that 4-year span, man, I mean, it felt like as you're going through it, it felt like forever. But then now as I reflect back on it, I'm like, dude, it's not that I don't remember it, but it was like, it goes by, right? But in order to thrive, you got to survive. You got to be able to stay in the game. And I'm curious with you coaching and talking with so many agents, is it really the market, or is it really like the effort that they're not putting in right now? The effort they're putting in right now wouldn't create results even if the market was totally different.
I think it's both, right? You do have the agents who definitely are putting in the time and are hard or working harder than ever, but they just keep losing, like in multiple offer. And I think at that point it becomes, what does it look like in terms of my emotional fitness and my emotional intensity? And how do I also prepare my buyer for that? I think that's the thing that's hardest on agents right now, is really managing those buyers' emotions who've lost out on their quote unquote dream home, 5, 6, 8 times. And I think that is just, it becomes draining for some agents. So I think then when we don't have our buckets full and when we are drained, we're naturally not going to be as efficient when we're actually, showing up and supposed to put in the work and do the work. So we talk a lot with our agents about, extreme time management. We all have 24 hours in a day. That doesn't mean that you have to work 24 hours in a day, but it might mean that you have to work 8. And what does your calendar actually look like to support you working in bursts so that you're as structured as possible, knowing that, hey, when I get to 5 o'clock or whatever that end time is on your calendar, you've achieved everything that you needed to achieve in a given day. And a lot of that is really tied to kind of racing yourself, mindset shifts of saying, man, I want to be as efficient as possible. I'm not going to switch gears, 15 times during the day and lose 15 minutes every time that I do. We talk to our agents too about opportunity minutes. So, we have, I think it's 1,440 minutes in a given day. After you sleep and eat, whatever else, you have about 1,000 opportunity minutes. So when somebody says, hey, I can't exercise for 30 minutes, and I'm usually guilty of that, it's like, man, that's 30 out of 1,000. What the heck are you doing with those 1,000 minutes? So we talk about, work in a burst for 30 minutes. Say I'm going to dial for 30 minutes and see what results I can have. All right, I'm going to dial for another 30 minutes and see what results I can have. Break it down, be more efficient. One of the most poignant things that Adam ever said to me was, I care more about the impact that you make than the hours that you work. Because I was that person early on that'd be like, man, I worked 14 hours today. And he'd be like, I don't give a shit, right? I don't care. I care about what impact you make. So that really changed me in coaching to say, all right, you don't have to lead generate for 8 hours. If you don't have any other business, you probably should be, because what else are you doing, right? This is a job. It is a career. So a lot of it, I think, is being structured and disciplined with your time and really mastering the boredom and having the emotional fitness to deal with things being a little bit more challenging right now.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, a lot of agents kind of don't treat it as a business. So to your point, those are the agents who are never going to win if they're not consistently pouring into education and increasing kind of their leadership lid to lead, their agents, but then also just learning, how do I compete? How do I prospect? How do I actually get sellers to sell their home in this market?
Yep. Love it. And one thing that you said before we actually hit the record button and got started of, you really stressed like going to the extreme of getting back to the fundamentals.
Yes.
And we had a conversation with this off air, but, I think it's so important for everybody here of, so many people are searching that magic pill. It may or may not exist. I've yet to be aware of one, right? But it seems to be the fundamentals are always what gets you through, those tough times. And can you just speak to, like what does that mean? And like, what do you guys like when you say like, we are just going so extreme at making sure that we're executing on the fundamentals? Like what does that mean?
Yeah. So we talk a lot about going back to basics, and this wasn't always the case in our organization. I mean, we've been building now for about 10 years, and pretty soon when I came on, it was kind of looking at, all right, what are the shiny objects? What's this new tool? What's that new tool? Should we explore this? Should we get more leads like that? And at the end of kind of this burst of exploration, we were like, man, we have so many leads. Our database right now is probably 600,000 leads. We don't need more people to talk to. We just have to talk to them. So we really drilled down into what does it look like for you to have more conversations? And I think now too, a lot of people are really into, bulk texting, bulk emailing, and drip campaigns. And how do I put this person in this funnel or whatever else? When in reality, I look at the data all the time for all of our teams, and the best conversions happen over the phone. And so many agents are reluctant to just have the conversation. I understand that texting is easy. I understand that email is easy, but you don't actually develop any kind of connection. And also that initial phone call is how you brand yourself. It's how you market yourself, right? So for us, it's getting down to prescriptive action. A lot of that might be with us telling agents, okay, strive for 20 contacts today. See how long that has taken you to do, right? Okay, let's say it's 20 contacts for every 100 dials. How long do those 100 dials take you? All right, what if we double that tomorrow? And really looking at the data to tell us a story, to say, okay, if I want to set an appointment, I know that I have to make 200 dials. It's also getting your database in shape and really, making sure that you have all the missing pieces in there. So the technology, the systems, the tools, that those slick functions that we do have are actually helping to warm up leads for us. So that's really where scalability and automation comes into play. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of it too is paying attention to what the data is telling us. If someone's going back to the website every single day, if they're looking at a property 3, 4, 5 times, if they're calculating a mortgage on a property, you better be picking up the phone and contacting that person. If a person comes back to our website and they haven't been on the website in the past 45 days, but suddenly they're back and they're active, you know what? That person has a renewed interest in real estate. So it's our job to actually pay attention to that, pick up the phone and have that conversation and offer value and offer that knowledge that they're not going to get from someone else.
Yeah. I mean, I love all aspects of it. And, it's been said in the marketing world, and this is like a general rule. It differs on price points and products and so forth, but that, you should be making $1 per month on average per lead in your list, in your CRM, in your database, if you're working it effectively. So as you said, you guys get 600,000 in there. So I did the math. So you guys are about $2.5 per every data lead that's in there, but that shows how strict you are at working that, but if so if somebody's got or 20,000 leads, they should be making $20,000 a month at a minimum, right? But unfortunately, it's just a lot of people don't get the importance of their CRM and that connection with that list.
Well, a lead isn't good if it's not being worked. So I'm like a broken record with our people, and I will say that you have to have 6 to 12 contact attempts. You need to be responding as fast as humanly possible. 5 minutes isn't good enough anymore. I mean, these are such basic things, but it all comes back to the client experience. I was trying to put in an offer recently on a property. I called, I texted and emailed the agent. I called and texted again, never heard back from the agent. Well, you know what? That house has been on the market 200 days in this market. That agent is not actually, doing what they're supposed to do. And it comes down to actually, being a good steward of the homes that you're selling and the buyers who you're representing and wanting the best for them. And I think the client experience, again, it's how quickly you communicate, how you educate them, the patience that you bring to communication with people too.
Yeah, love it. So I know we're going long on time. So I had a couple last questions for you here. So I'm curious with, you leading this huge organization that just is, continues to grow at a rapid level. Yep. But you got, you guys are all over, right? It's not like you got one location with all these agents and you're, 30 different states and managing these teams virtually. And as people are moving more to the virtual component, COVID really accelerated that for a lot of people. I know you guys were there before that. But like what has been the key for you, to be able to lead effectively, if you will, with, agents and teammates all over the country, scattered all over that you don't see them physically, in the office in the day?
So I would say a lot of it is presence and also making myself available. So I largely get my work done, like the actual project-based, like hands-on tactical stuff I need to do from like 5:30 in the morning until 8. And then, after hours, where during the day, I'm largely available. So if someone texts me, I'm going to text them right back. If someone calls me, I'm probably going to text them and say, hey, I have this next, availability. I'll call you then. I think that accessibility helps a lot in just knowing that, hey, this person is present, they're willing to help me. And we are definitely an organization of that. Right? Where anyone is willing to give to someone else, anyone is willing to share their time and their expertise with someone else. And it's interesting in my journey because I'm not the most seasoned in real estate. I mean, I've been in the business 4.5, 5 years. I think the difference is leadership, right? And leading from a place of genuinely caring for people. As I said earlier, I wake up every day thinking, how do I create better lives for everyone who I'm responsible for? How do I make it so everybody is successful and never has to leave the industry? One of the things that I'm most proud of in our organization is we have a 96% retention rate. And in real estate, that never happens, right? And a lot of that is our culture, where we do have fun. Tonight our team is doing a trivia night where we do, cocktail hours virtually with people. We do a lot of trainings too. So we see each other a lot. We do an all company meeting once a month that I lead, where we have a lot of updates and just informational things coming. We send a lot of scorecards out every day, which our people are competitive. So every day we're ranking them and they're saying, okay, I need to sell X more homes to get to the top 10 agents in our company this month, things like that. So we try to gamify things. We try to pour into people by having opportunities for people to come together. Every morning at 8:20 in the morning, we do a power up where a leader from our organization gets on the phone and gives people 10 minutes of inspiration. So we have a lot of opportunities for connectedness. And again, this was pre-COVID, and we didn't even really feel COVID. I mean, other than our leadership team in Vermont, we all now work from home, but we used to be in an office together, and honestly, we get way more done now. So it's actually been beneficial for us to have our space. And the thing with people working virtually is I think that they typically work harder and longer hours, right? So for us, it's really been, how can we foster that culture with everyone in different, areas. We do have one event where everyone comes to Vermont in the fall of every year. We will see each other a couple of times a year. And man, it's amazing because I'm coaching a lot of people who I've never met. It's been, 2 years and I've never actually hugged the person. So it's cool though, to see what kind of connections you can foster over Zoom, over, FaceTime, and just on the phone.
Yep. Awesome. So then, I'm really curious with, you've got so much going on, but you also execute and you get so much accomplished. And, I'm probably going to botch the saying, but it's like, you want something done, give it to an extremely busy person. Yeah. Right. So, but in order to get all this done, I got to imagine that you're very intentional with your schedule and you plan what does that look like? How do you, because for anybody that just is looking at everything that you do, their minds are probably just how is that possible?
Yeah, I get that a lot. And people think that I'm kind of crazy. Even my family members, right? Where I have right now 12 different sources of income. I think my sister, who's a few years older than me, she's like, I have 3 sources of income and I can't keep up. And with me, I'm like, this is just always how I operate. Now, with that said, I would work all day long if I could, because I am good at working. I enjoy working. I enjoy building. And that might be an issue with, me mindset wise, is I want to work all the time for the most part. And I will take, a lot of vacations. I will take 3-day weekends. I will budget in. If I don't have to work Friday afternoons, I take them off. I try to take a 2-week vacation where I largely disconnect every year. And that's something for me to look forward to, where I know, and this is something that I struggle with and I'm always working on, is how to live in the present and be in the present, because I always like that thing to look forward to, right? And that keeps me going. Now, in terms of how I actually execute on it, I largely just know what I have to achieve every day. So I live by my calendar. My calendar is extremely color-coded to be okay, this is my personal time. This is when I'm exercising. This is when I'm eating meals. This is when I'm having coaching times. This is when I'm doing trainings. This is my execution time. This is my recruiting time. It's all in my calendar so that I know when I get my little ping to log out for the day at 7:00, which I have to have on my calendar, otherwise I will keep going. I know that, hey, I've achieved everything that I needed to get done today, and I don't have to worry about it. I used to be a really terrible sleeper for that reason, that there was always something else to do. So by following my calendar to a T, where I literally could not live without my calendar, I know that I've gotten everything I need to done. And I think working in bursts helps to know, okay, and also, themes. So Mondays are going to be super meeting heavy. Wednesdays, I call them my GSD days, where like I try not to take meetings. Fridays, I never take meetings. It's like my get shit done day all day. And a lot of our team members also do that, where we'll go into kind of like, it's funny, I used to say, I'm going into quarantine mode before quarantining was a thing. Right now, I'm like, oh, I can't use that anymore. But it's like, I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to be on do not disturb today because I have big things to achieve. And a lot of that is just setting the standard with people around you to know that you're kind of going into that mode. But a lot of it is just literally putting everything that I have, personal, professional, on the calendar. It's simple. Yep. We talk about simple and back to basics, but that's really what it is. And I also have figured out how much time I need for certain things. So if I need, to check email on this or that, I'm going to spend 15 minutes here and 15 minutes on that. And I'm very disciplined with switching gears as well. I also have really shortened meetings. We can get a lot done in an hour. We used to have in-person leadership meetings where we would take all day and we wasted a ton of time. Now we do those in an hour and a half. We get just as much accomplished.
Yep. No, I love it. Well, and it seems like the best leaders and I mean, leadership really starts and is all about like an internal journey, if you will, right. And, but you've gotten so good at leading yourself, like, okay, I'm planning my days. I know what I got to do. I know it's important, but then the hard part then is sticking to it. But you're leading yourself at that, which then, transpires into you being such a great leader, for the overall organization and for everybody else. And it's awesome stuff. So, Erin, like where, if anybody that's watching or listening to this, if they want to, continue to follow you on this amazing journey, or maybe, we have real estate agents and team leaders and so forth from all over the United States. And I don't know if you guys expand outside of the US, but Canada and so forth as well. If anybody's watching or listening to this has interest of, being a part of and joining you guys' expansion team. And then I don't know if, with your coaching, if that's just internal or if you also do coaching outside of that. Yep. But again, like where's the best place for people just to get in touch with you and all of that stuff?
Yeah. So you can Google me, Erin Torres, and I come up in a lot of different capacities. So I'm very easy to find that way. Erin@hergroup.com. That's my email. Always feel free to reach out. So yeah, I'm also a coach and trainer through Adam Hergenrother Coaching. So that's our actual coaching company. I'm not just a coach to our teams, although I do that too. So AdamHergenrother.com. Another great resource is Adam's podcast, Business Meets Spirituality. We have a lot of great nuggets that talk about our world and what we do and our culture there. But AdamHergenrother.com, businesandlifecoaching.com is the website for our coaching and training organization. I'm TravelLikeALocalVT.com, Travel Like a Local on Instagram. Easy to find, that's for sure.
Awesome. And those that are watching, listen, I know most of you are in the car driving or working out and so forth. So if you guys just scroll below in the show notes, we'll have all of that, all Erin's contact information, all those links, everything right there. We can just click on them and go connect and get more information on that. And, Erin, I know how busy you are, and the fact that you took time to be here with us is truly an honor. And this has been so amazing. And just thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great conversation.
Yeah, 100%. And those watching and listening, as always, we truly appreciate you guys being here and all your support. Keep up the amazing work. Keep kicking ass, and we will see you next time. Peace. I hope you enjoyed this GSD Mode podcast episode. Now make sure you get shit done and smash that subscribe button now.